Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Macau Literary Festival, the Script Road. My name is Alice. It is my pleasure to be your moderator today. We are here for a very special section titled Belonging Nowhere, where we will dive into a truly spellbinding debut novel, Winter in Sokcho. Am I right? Sokcho. And as a wonderful treat, this conversation will serve as the perfect prelude to our 4:30 film screening of the novel's cinematic adaptation, directed by Koya Kamura. Right here, right there, actually, at the Cinematheque Passion. Joining us today to discuss this journey from page to screen is the brilliant author herself, Elisa Shua Dusapin. Born in France and raised in Paris, Seoul, and Switzerland, Elisa burst onto the literary scene with this exquisitely crafted novel, right here, which was awarded the Prix Robert Wasser and the Prix Régine Desforges. The novel takes us to a freezing tourist town on the border between South and North Korea. It follows a young French-Korean woman working as a receptionist in a tired guest house, whose life is disrupted by the arrival of an unexpected guest, a French cartoonist named Yan Keron. Oh, yes. Who is looking for inspiration in the desolate landscape. What follows is a masterclass in tension, a story about shared identity, divided self, and the fleeting kinship between strangers. So let's join me in giving a very warm welcome to Elisa Shua Dusapin.
Thank you.
So to start, Elisa, welcome. I want to start with the setting of the book because Sokcho in winter almost feels like a character itself. It's a liminal space, a resort town out of season, sitting right in the border of North and South Korea. The cold slows everything down. So let us ask you to share a little bit. Why did you choose this specific desolate landscape as the backdrop of your debut novel?
Thank you for the question. Hello, and thank you for being here. First, I just have to say that I write in French, and it's always a little bit strange for me to talk about my books in a foreign language because it creates a kind of distance, but it's also interesting because all my books speak about distance between people or culture, but also about what bound us. And for this novel especially, when I began to write, I was 17 in the high school, and I think I had kind of identity crisis between East and West cultures. And I wanted to write something like a bridge between the culture that I have and but it was not so I think it was I wanted to write about bridges, but actually I discovered that it was more about borders. Borders between culture, sea and land, languages, men, women, and also borders that we can have inside of ourselves. And first I put the story in Busan, so a big city in South Korea, but the more I discovered the I character, the more I felt that Busan didn't really fit the emotions of the characters. So I began to think about another place, and suddenly I remembered Sokcho that I discovered by accident a few years ago, and I was very moved by the situation of this city, just on the border between South and North Korea. And the situation of this country touched me because my family was separated between North and South during the war. So suddenly I had the feeling that this city could maybe represent what the character feel, and it was also important for me because I think that I don't write in a psychological way, but more, I think I try to describe the sensations, the feeling, comment dire, les sensations, the sensations of the body, with the five senses. Because as I said before, I was very young when I wrote this book, and I had no self-confidence at all. So I didn't really trust my thinkings, my thoughts, but I told myself what a body can feel that can't be false. It's just a feeling, and anyway, it says something. That's why it was more important for me to describe what the body felt than the psychology. But of course, it's a novel, so I had to develop the characters. And I think...
Did you stay in Sokcho?
Yes.
For how long for you to...
I spent the winter there in this pension, so it's not autobiographical, but for all my books, I involved myself like very deeply because I have to feel the things.
It's supposed to be a little bit touristic, isn't it?
Yes.
Or not?
Actually, in summer, it's one of the most touristic places in South Korea, but in winter, there is nobody. Maybe there is more people now, but when I discovered the city, it was 2011, so a long time ago now, and the city changed a lot. And it was also an issue because when the movie, when they did a movie about the story, the team or the production wondered if they had to change the place because it doesn't really fit the story anymore.
Because it's too busy?
Not very busy, but it became modern and like contemporary, the buildings. Yeah.
So when you wrote about this, it wasn't so long ago, right? When you were 17 to 20, so
I'm
it must be only like
it was more than 10 years ago.
So during these 10 years, it changed a lot.
Yes.
Did you bring this back to Sokcho? Do they know about this book?
Yes. Actually, I feel very lucky because my books are translated into many languages, and the first one was Korean. So shortly after the French publication, I was invited to promote the book in Korea, especially in Sokcho, and it's very moving for me, of course, because I wanted to. Yeah, sorry.
Maybe you helped in the touristic development of the.
Actually, I think something like this, but especially since the movie, because of course people want to go to the shooting place.
Yes. Okay, so let's go deeper into the book now about identity and the female protagonist, of course. The protagonist of the novel is a young French-Korean woman, and you yourself are of mixed French and Korean heritage. In a previous interview with Tang magazine, I read that you mentioned that writing this book was a way to put yourself in the shoes of a young woman who, unlike you, was born in South Korea. Forming a sort of mirror image. Can you talk about this diasporic experience and how linguistic and cultural distances shape the identity of your narrator?
Yes, in every country that I belong, a part of myself feel like a foreigner, even if I feel that I belong there. So it's more in the look of other people that I realize that I'm not like fully fully them, yes. And now I consider that like a chance, but when I was a child, it was harder because we need to have the feeling to belong somewhere. And when I was very young, we moved from France to Switzerland, a very small village, and we were the only foreigners. So I experienced at that time a very strong Asian racism, and slowly I didn't want it that my mother came to pick up me at school anymore, or I wanted to just not to show my Asian part anymore, just to be with other children. And it was also a question of language, because at that time I spoke better Korean than French. And the children just laugh because I spoke Korean, and I didn't make the difference between Korean and France, because at home we just mixed everything, and also with the Swiss German language. And actually my Korean grandparents never really accepted that I forgot slowly my mother language, that I relearned after. But the more I forgot the Korean and I learned French, the more I had the feeling that I shouldn't forget Korean, and it was like a tension with my French language. And now I'm only able to write literairement in French. But for this novel, I imagined all the dialogues in Korean, and I translated myself. So all that writing process created, I think, this kind of distance with my own tool, like the writing tool, but also between characters, because they don't really communicate with language, but more with drawings or cooking or the body or images. Because I was aware for a long time that words or languages are not always the best way to really communicate. Sometimes it's just words, but what is there behind that? If we have so different culture and just personal histories. Yes.
So can we say that when you imagine this female protagonist being born in Korea, but she studied French literature and was able to speaking French with the tourists who arrived, the cartoonist, and communicated with him, and that you are trying to create a kind of alter ego that could have been like that. You imagine what was the other 50% of possibility that could happen to you?
I think it was just much more personal. I wanted to show my grandparents that I care for my Asian identity, and it's not my fault if I grew up in Europe. It's just a very family thing.
Yes, I think in Macau we can share these feelings also, because we have our Macanese culture. I have a lot of Macanese friends. They are able maybe to understand Cantonese but not able to write Chinese, So yeah, you're here not for no reason, for sure.
It's also something that moved me a lot when I promote the books in Asia, like Japan, Korea, China, Macau, Hong Kong, because I feel that the question of people are very different from the question of Western people or in the US, and I feel much closer here, I think.
Yeah, mixed culture. Okay, after talking about the female protagonist, I would like to mention also the male protagonist. And if the female protagonist is a mirror image, exploring your own heritage. I am fascinated by the symbolic weight of the French male character then, Yan Quéron, sorry. He arrives in Sokcho searching for an authentic career for his comic book. Yet he often ignores the messy, neon-lit reality the protagonist actually lives in, the fish markets, the smells, the local food. What does Quéron represent in this story then? Is he the embodiment of the Western gaze, or perhaps a reflection of the artistic struggle to capture the thick and fix a culture in ink that isn't entirely yours?
I think it's a mix of everything you said, but maybe first he represents something from the big Western world, and I know that I just simplified, and I don't like that. But at that time, it was just like a representation about that in a emotionally way. Because I grew up between France, Switzerland, and then Korea, and now I lived in so many countries. But at that time, I was very sensitive to the I knew the very fine differences between culture, because I have them in myself, and I was so often shocked by how other people can just be black and white, because it's easier. Sometimes it's also it's reassured just to think like this, because we believe that we better understand the world, but actually everything is so complex. Yeah. And for this character, I wanted him to represent something not black and white, but with all the representation that he could have about Korea. So in a maybe very simplified way, but also I have empathy with this character. I don't like him, but I can understand, or because actually he doesn't realize that he has this Western gaze. And that's all the question between this girl and him. So they try to communicate and understand, and then very slowly they realize that they are actually much closer than they think they are.
And the setting that he's an artist too.
Yeah, also I began to write at the time. I never expected to write a novel. And during the writing process, I had so many questions about creativity, about writing. Why do I need to spend so much time alone to think and to write? Because it asks so many, concentration and discipline. So I think he also represents the questioning that I had at the time.
Did you find your answer of why you're putting so much effort in writing? Because you were 17. It was during the time when you were trying to establish yourself as a grown-up in the world. Did you find your answer?
I think it's always questioning things, but I just finished my 5th book last week, and in between I also wrote 5 theater pieces. So maybe the only thing that I learned is that it's normal to have doubts, and if I don't have doubts or questions anymore, I have to stop writing, because it's a process. I don't have a plan and then I write. It's just I discover during the writing.
So the process is the answer, creativity is the answer. So another very striking element of the book is its focus on the physical body and bodily modification. We see a guest in the book at the hotel recovering from plastic surgery, her face wrapped in bandage, and the narrator's boyfriend who casually talks about altering his own face to be a model. And you've mentioned you wrote this when you were feeling the pressure also of conforming to a certain type of appearance. What were you looking to explore regarding the Eurasian ideal and the heavy burden of physical expectations that we can see in South Korea?
When I discovered this phenomenon in South Korea, I was young. I was a child, and that shocked me, and that also made me sad, because why do so many people, like a nation, feel the need to change something of the face, and the face represents the first thing that of our identity that we show to other people. So it says something of the pressure of the society to be perfect, like at work and also physically. I think it has to do with the very old Confucianism culture and tradition, like we have to be good people, but then the capitalism and the history just change a little bit the culture, just to put pressure on other way on the society. But for me, as an Eurasian, like half Korean, it was also shocking and moving, because the kind of ideal the people want to reach with these transformations are just to get the nose bigger or the eyes or just something like this. And sometimes it could be closer from Western faces, but not absolutely Western, like a mix. But in the same way, in Korea, if you are not 100% Korean, it's not good considered. Like some people like me, it's just like we are not so.
Not pure blood.
Yeah, something
kind
like this. Yes, like very nationalist, and so it was just a very confusing questioning.
But they must envy you having this beautiful face of this mixture, right?
No, because I had I don't know in English, but you know this, they don't like that. So
but that's cute.
Every Korean just told me, it exists a cream to just put this over.
Okay, so and then now let's talk a little bit about how this book turns into a film. This brings to the second half of our section's theme, the cinematic afterlife of your novel. Shortly, we will be watching Koya Kamura's film adaptation of Winter in Sokcho, subtitled Shared Identity, Divided Selves. The novel is incredibly atmospheric and relies so much on the unspoken, you mentioned just now, the quiet tension and the internal life of the narrator. What has the journey been like, seeing this intimate, quiet story translated from your written words onto this visual medium of the screen?
That was a big deal to manage those questions from writing to screen, because images are absolutely other language than words. In a text, we imagine things and then create an imaginary world, but a movie just put images, and then those images are on the previous images. And for me as a writer, I also forgot the images that I had when I wrote the books. So now I just I have the movie in my mind. So I didn't say yes first. I was carefully. I really wanted to be sure that the director and the scenarist had very deeply understood what's the most important for me. But after that, I didn't want to participate at all. So, and I say that because before this proposition, we had interest from the US, like a very big production, and we said no because they had a very simplified vision about like a love story between strangers, and especially like a Western male and an Asian woman, and it's not this question at all. So I was like, no, I don't want that anyway. And what's nice in this project is that the director is Franco-Japanese and the scenarist is Franco-Vietnamese. So we are all half-half. And I think that we share this kind of questioning, but with different countries. And for the directors as half Japanese, it was also a challenge to adapt a movie who's set it in Korea because of the history, of course. So it was a very great experience, like a human experience to do that.
Can you share a bit more how you were involved in the creation of the film? Because there's a lot of details on describing the smells, the scenery, and all these details in your book. To put it cinematographically, the aesthetic of the images, did you involve with talking with the cinematographer or the director?
No, really, I didn't want to be involved. Maybe because I don't always trust adaptations, especially on movies. So I wanted to be free to be able to say I didn't participate if I don't like the result. So I'm joking, but it's a half joke because.
Did you like it?
But yes, actually, I was very moved. But no, it's not so true because actually I was there if the team needed my look or my opinion about some specific questions. For example, the off voice or not, or the language, because the text is written in French, but the characters speak Korean and English. But in the movie, it's a French and Korean production, so the rules are that they can't speak in English because of the financial question. So it had to be half French, half Korean, so they just changed the script because of that. And also, the text is written by eye, and it's impossible to just adapt that, yes, in images. So to show the inside of the character, they had to add more scenes and just to add on the scenario, dialogues and scenes between the characters. For example, the boyfriend, the mother, and the eye character. Just that, so we can understand the background, because they didn't want the off voice. They really wanted only images.
On a third person's
yes.
point of view.
It's a very atmospherical movie and very beautiful, and you will see, if you see the movie, it's also with cartoon, like animation drawings. And this is also a very beautiful and poetical way to express things, like through the drawing. Especially the eye character has eating disorders and also dysmorphophobia, and that was too hard to express with a real actress. So the actress is wonderful, but for some kind of things like that are emotionally very hard, the drawing can just express that. That's beautiful in the movie.
And how was it? How was the film received in France? Did you know?
It was a very good reception. Like for 1 month, it was the best movie. You know, like with many people came into the theater. So we were very happy, and also nobody expected that because it's not a big production. Of course, the male character is a very famous actor in France, but anyway, we didn't expected that, so it's.
I think the context, based on my experience also living in France, this mixed cultural context is very appreciated also, I think. So your situation, it's something that that is quite core value of what the French culture is proud of, isn't it? They always celebrate this multiculturalism, and that they are very open to have mix among them. Do you think?
Yes, and especially with Korea, I think it's very like the soft power of pop culture of Korea is very well known now in Europe, especially. But I think what you said is true, especially for maybe Asia now, but not with all other culture. And I can say that because now for 2 years I live in the Middle East, and I feel so many other things like, it's not always like...
a lot of conflict
yes.
Nowadays in the world, not so much about merging and... Okay. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your writing style now. And in your writing style in Winter in Sokcho has been widely praised for being minimalist, sparse, and incredibly precise, almost mimicking the protagonist Yan Kehong's stark ink drawings. Every word feels carefully chosen. Was this striped back sensory prose a deliberate choice to reflect the cold, isolated environment of Sokcho, or is that naturally how your literary voice took shape?
It was not really conscious. And maybe more due to my difficulties to write in French, even if it's my language, because, as I said before, I was translating myself from Korean to French to write this book, and during the whole writing process, I had the feeling that I didn't really had the right to write this story in French. Especially if I create a character who is Korean. So this tension kept me far from the beautiful long French sentence that I technically can write in an email, or I don't know. But for the literary writing, it's really interesting, but because even now, like 10 years later, I feel more comfortable with that, but I still see that the creative writing is very different from the other kind of writing, and I don't really know why. Sometimes we don't know why.
I think it's the fragmentation comes from, it can come from something deeper.
Yes, of course. It's in the specific moment of writing. It's kind of like a hypnosis, and it's a mix between the consciousness, but also the memories and the feelings and everything mix, and then something appear. And when I go out of this moment and when I read what I wrote, quite often I'm like surprised, because it's like, oh, is it really me, myself. I didn't know that.
When the book was published, you were still very young, of course. When you finished it, you were only 20. And how was the book was received, and how did you feel? Because you were awarded several times based on this book.
Yes, it was very contrasted because of one part, it was, of course, was like very successful, so I was happy about that. But in another way, I was very exposed to the media and the foreign look, and I was only 22 and not prepared to that. And also at that time, I was still in conflict, I think, with as a young woman, with my body, with in the society, like how to be as a woman. And it was also before Me Too, you know, this movement. So I think that I experienced many things that I hadn't had to experience at the time. But now, with the time, I can say that that made me more conscious about things that, and also that I have the responsibility of the words, because it's a chance to be published. At the time, I think I was really unconscious because I just sent the manuscript to publisher and just it was okay, yes, but I had no negative answers. But now I know that in French speaking world, it's less than one manuscript for 1,000 manuscripts who had the chance to be published. So I wasn't aware about that. And now when I'm translated into more than 40 languages, so I meet readers on the whole world, and it's just incredible just to see that one very short story can just reach so many people. So I feel very, very lucky, and I learned so many things here.
Did you want to be a writer, or it just happened like that?
No, I didn't want it at all. Again, because I had so less self-confidence, I think. I wanted to study the animals' behaviors, because I'm fascinated by people or animals or everything on the world who communicate without words, actually. And it's
interaction.
Yes, and it's ironic because
You didn't want words. Actually.
Yes, I didn't want words, and now I live from my
now
words.
You're a writer.
So, yes.
Okay, now we have about 10 to 15 minutes for a question, maybe from the audience. If you have a question for Elisa about the book or the upcoming film, please raise your hand, and we have our colleague to pass you the microphone. Please.
Hi, congratulations. You told you had to learn Korean back because you forgot about the original language. Did you learn how to write also, or you just learned how to speak Korean again? Have you tried to write in Korean? Maybe something different will come out?
Yes, actually I didn't really forget Korean, but just I began to answer in German when my family spoke to me in Korean. So now my skills are very like on different levels, so I understand almost perfectly, but I speak like a 5 years child, and I can read, and also I can write, but very bad, like a very young child.
So when the book has been translated into Korean, were you able to read it?
Yes, I was, and it's a very interesting question because, for example, here we have the English translations, and I think they are wonderful. Sometimes I'm joking with saying that it's more beautiful in English than in my French. And I'm very close to my translator. She's an old Indian English woman, and just so wonderfully sensible. In Korean, I was a little bit disappointed because I never had any contact with my translator, and I wish I could have during the process because I understand, I can read, and of course the translator knows what he does. It's his, and I'm so grateful, and also I admire this job because it's so comment dire, modeste, but
and
also
generous,
yes, and
actually.
generous, and such a incredibly hard work. And there is like two main way to translate. A way that the translations stay very close to the original language structure, even if the results could be a little bit strange to read, or a way to fit the most on the destination language, so that the reading is more comfortable. And the Korean translator chose to stay very close to the French language, but in the linguistic, both languages are very different. The French language is like an articulate language with connectors between words, and Korean is more like we say agglutinant. It's like one words with particles who determine the word in the sentence. And the result is that in French I say always the I before verbs, and in Korean we try to avoid that because it means that someone is very like confident and very present, but in the Korean culture we try to just not to express.
Be more humble.
Yes,
in
exactly,
a way, yes.
exactly, yes. So the result is that in Korean he put the Korean I before the Korean verbs, and the character is very different. So the Korean audience just read a little bit different story, I think.
Sure. Any other question would like to ask Elisa? Okay, so that was your. I still have many questions. So this was your debut novel, and then you mentioned that you just finished your fifth, and these two also which are available in our book fair. You can take a look. Can you tell us a little bit about the development, the evolve, how your writing and themes and your interest have evolved since?
Yes, those are the three first novels, and I think it's like it's kind of a circle because they are all set in Asia, like Korea, Japan, like Tokyo, and Vladivostok in Russia. And I say that because the fourth novel is set in France, where I was born, and the fifth is very different, like in the Middle East, and it's a war reportage, so very different, like non-fiction. But those three are very close to my personal evolution, I think, like growing also. And the second one, so the story is in Tokyo, and it's about the Korean-Japanese community in Korea, and about the pachinko, this like a money game that is officially forbidden in Japan, so it's kind of mafia, but it was invented by the Korean diaspora after the Korean War in the 50s. So yeah, I wrote that because I lived many years in Japan, and I was very I felt close to that community there. And Vladivostok Circus, I wrote that 2 years after this one, and this appeared after a very long trip that I did between Switzerland and Japan through Korea and Russia, because by train and boat. I took the Trans-Siberian for 6 months because I wanted to cross the Eurasian continent to see the
transition.
yes, the transition on a human time and point of view. Yes.
Okay. So would you like to ask any more questions, or would you like to share some of your thoughts about the above topics? Yes. So I'm afraid that is more or less time here for our discussion. So Elisa, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your insights with us. Winter in Sokcho is a truly atmospheric and beautiful book, and you can find it in our book fair. And for our audience also, copies of the book is available for purchase. But our journey in Sokcho doesn't stop here. Please, later at 4:30 at the Cinematheque Passion, the film will be screened there. So I will be there for sure. Please, you are welcome to join us. Here, thank you again, Elisa, for being here with us. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you for the moderation also. Thank you.